Hi everybody, Ellen here. Today I come to you guys with my book haul. I have a shitload of books to talk about, so we're just going to dive right into it and we're going to count all the books later. I feel like this book haul is a very big, like, middle grade haul, and then there's also some YA thrown in there, but mostly middle grade. So the first one we have is A Clock of Stars by Francesca Gibbons, illustrated by Chris Riddell, meaning the same guy that illustrated Harry Potter books. This is the series called The Shadow Moth, and this one sounds really magical because we meet Imogen and she should be nice to little sister Mary, she should be nice to her mom's boyfriend too, and she certainly shouldn't follow a strange silver moth through a door in a tree. But then, who does what they're told? Soon Imogen and Marie find themselves trapped in a magical kingdom where no one behaves as they should, and the sisters must move fast to escape the monsters that come after dark. Longing to return home, they find help from a spoiled prince, a dancing bear, and even the stars above. So it sounds really magical, it's really chunky, there's beautiful illustrations, like I said, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. And then we have The Slightly Alarming Tale of the Whispering Wars by Jacqueline Moriarty. This is a companion novel to The Extremely Inconvenient Adventures of Bronte and Mittlestone, which is a book I read and loved in September, I believe. And this one takes place, it's sort of a prequel, I believe, because it takes place during the Whispering Wars, which has definitely happened before the story of Bronte Mittlestone. So in this one we meet Finley and his friends live at the orphanage school in Spindrift, and that's not far from Honeybee, who tends the Brathwaite pronunciation boarding school, and when the two schools compete in a sports tournament, tensions are high, and before long the orphans and boarding school kids are engaged in an all-out war, which sounds amazing. But then the real Whispering Wars break out, witches and sirens invade the town, and children are disappearing without a trace. Finlay, Honeybee and their friends need to join forces, but how can one bickering group of children possibly outwit the insidious power of the Whispers? And who are the mysterious strangers from the future, friend or foe? Finlay and Honeybee takes turns telling their story in this thrilling adventure set in the same world as the extremely inconvenient adventures of Bronte Mittlestone. So I just really loved the first book, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. And this is also illustrated by KG Mountford, so I'm gonna be able to see that once again. And I believe she's coming out with a new book in the beginning of next year, so I'm really looking forward to that. I have a YA, and this is Star Daughter by Shweta Thakrar. Sorry I butchered that, but this book is gorgeous. Look at that gold, and also the back is really pretty as well. So I've heard some mixed things about this book because it doesn't have like the best rating on Goodreads, but this is just so beautiful that I needed to buy it anyways. So we meet Shatal Mystery. I think she's half star, half human or something like that, and on her 17th birthday, this pull from the sky is growing stronger, and Shatal loses control, and she accidentally have a flare of starfire burn her human father, and that's an injury only a full star's blood can heal. So I think she has to like ascend to the sky and ask for a celestial family to help heal her father or something like that. Sounds really interesting. Never heard like a concept of like this before, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. But this is Hunting Prince Dracula by Karen Maniscalco. This is the second book in the series called Stalking Jack the Ripper. I don't know what they call this series, but I did read the first book quite some time ago. But the only thing it says on the back is a man impaled by a sharp wooden stake, a young chambermaid drained of her blood. They say it's Prince Dracula, arisen from the dead. I say it's the living, not the dead, we should fear the most. So who's gonna hunt Prince Dracula? So I'm guessing it's going to be some vampire shit going on in this, and I'm all here for it. And then we have two books in the same series. So we have Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow, and also The Calling of Wundersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow. This is book 1 and 2 in the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. I did previously own Nevermore, The Trial of Morgan Crow in a hardback, but before the move over 2 years ago, I unhauled that for like some stupid reason, and now I bought them again in paperback, and I'm not really like in love with these covers or anything, and I don't really think these are even the same. Yeah, this is mixed, so one is the British and one is the American, but we're just going to pretend that that's not the case because they won't match, but whatever. But in the first one we meet Morgan Crow, and she is seen as sort of the most unlucky girl because of the day she was born. She is destined to die on her 11th birthday, and everything that goes wrong in the little town she's living in is blamed on Morgan Crow, meaning that her father pretty much has to pay for the damages that they blame her for. But on the night of her 11th birthday, a man called Jupiter North comes by and swoosh her off to a secret city of Nevermore, and there's some trials trying to get into this school, I believe, and it's all cool. I really enjoyed the first book, so I don't really know why I unhauled it, but I'm going to continue it. Now we have Sombrerella by Joseph Coelho, illustrated by Freya Harkas, and this is the first book in this series called Fairy Tales Gone Bad. So it's basically a retelling of Cinderella, although Cinderella happens to be a zombie. And it's beautiful illustrations all throughout, and I've actually already read this one. It was a really quick read because it's under 200 pages, but I'm gonna talk more about this one in my October wrap-up. But yeah, a really beautiful book indeed. Now we have one of the books I'm currently reading, and this is Amelia Fang and the Barbaric Ball, which is written and illustrated by Laura Ellen Anderson, and you just love this orange foil. But in this one we meet Amelia, and she is a vampire and her parents are actually kind of a big deal in this kingdom, I think. I'm supposed to host this barbaric ball, which they have every year, which Amelia never really enjoys because it's all adults there. But this year it's going to be different because the king is actually coming this year, which has been a really long time since he showed up to this party, and also his very spoiled son, who also happens to be the prince, is supposed to show up. So I'm guessing it's going to be some events around that. And like I said, really beautiful illustrations. Now we have two books in the same series. So we have Premeditated Myrtle and How to Get Away with Myrtle, a Myrtle Hardcastle mystery by Elizabeth C. Bunce. So this is the first book and the second book, and this kind of gives me a kind of Christie vibes, Marple vibes. And this is about Myrtle, and she and her governess, I think, are supposed to try to solve these murders, and even her lawyer of a father doesn't believe that this woman in town actually was murdered. They think it was just, you know, like an accident. But Myrtle is very set on finding out what happened and who did it and everything like that. So it's sort of a middle grade mystery murder kind of thing going on, and it sounds really great, and I'm really looking forward to reading this too. And then we have The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson. This is illustrated by Catherine Honesta. So we have illustrations in there. And in this one we meet Yanka, and she was found abandoned in a bear cave as a baby, and she's always wondered where she was from, and she tries to ignore the strange whispers and looks from the villagers, wishing she was as strong inside as she is on the outside. And when Yanka has to flee her house looking for answers about who she really is, a journey far beyond anything she ever imagined begins, from icy rivers to smoldering mountains, meeting an ever-growing herd of extraordinary friends along the way. Sounds really great. I've heard great things about Sophie Anderson's books in general, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. And we have Legendborn by Tracy Dion. This cover looks awesome, and I don't really know a lot about this one, but it's supposed to be, there's supposed to be some magical powers going on in this one, and I think Bree's mother dies in some kind of accident, and she goes to this high school residential program, and then she witnesses this sort of a magical attack on her very first night at campus, and that kind of unlocks Bree's own unique magic, and also a buried memory from the night her mother died. And now Bree just wants to find out the truth, and she will even infiltrate Legendborn, and Legendborn are sort of descendants of King Arthur's knights, and foretell a magical war. And Bree must decide how far she will go for the truth. Should she use her magic to take the society down or join the fight? So this sounds amazing. I love reading books about people with supernatural powers, and the font in this book is ridiculously small. So this will probably take a while to read, but I'm really wanting to read this one. So I'll put this one quite far on my TBR. We have another book that is very much spoken about at booktube at the moment. A Deadly Education by Norman Novick, and this is lesson 1 of the Scholomance, and this is supposed to be sort of a dark academia thing. I decided that Orion Lake needed to die after the second time he saved my life. Everyone loves Orion Lake, everyone else that is. Far as I'm concerned, he can keep his flashy combat magic to himself. I'm not joining his pack of adoring fans. I don't need help surviving the Scholomance, even if they do. Forget the hordes of monsters and cursed artifacts. I'm probably the most dangerous thing in the place. Just give me a chance and I'll level mountains and kill untold millions. Make myself the Dark Queen of the world. At least that's what the world expects. Most of the other students in here would be delighted if Orion killed me, like one more evil thing that's crawled out of the drains. Sometimes I think they want me to turn into the evil witch they assume I am. The school certainly does. But the Scholomance isn't getting what it wants from me, and neither is Orion Lake. I may not be anyone's idea of a shining hero, but I'm going to make it out of this place alive, and I'm not going to slaughter thousands to do it either. Although I'm giving serious consideration to just one. So I've never actually read a Naomi Novik book before, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. And this one is like not very long at all, about 313 pages, so it should be a quick read. And then we have A Sprinkle of Sorcery by Michelle Harrison, and this is the second book in A Pinch of Magic trilogy. I don't know, so I can't really tell you guys what this is about because this is the second book in the series, and also I haven't read the first book, but I think in the first book we follow a couple of sisters. I think there's 3 sisters, and they have sort of this curse put upon them, and they're trying to figure out what the curse is and how to break it. And that's all I know, but I just really want to have this series because I've heard great things and it's beautiful as hell. So yeah. And then we have the Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lynn. This has won the Newbery Honor Book Award. We meet Minley, who lives in the Valley of Fruitless Mountains, and she and her parents spend their days working hard in the fields, and then at night Minley listens to her father's tales about the Old Man of the Moon who knows the answers to everything. And Minley sets out on a quest to find the Old Man of the Moon. He will know how she can bring good fortune to her family. Along the way she meets many magical friends, including a talking fish, a powerful king, and a dragon who can't fly. So it sounds really great. Now we have 2 books in the same series. So we have Tilly and the Book Wanderers and Tilly and the Lost Fairy Tales, both written by Anna James. This is the Pages & Co. trilogy series. I don't know, there's definitely 3 books out so far. I don't know if it's the last one. But this one we meet Tilly. She can basically go into the book she's reading and go into their worlds, and that sounds amazing. I love that concept. And also, just from looking at the cover and the back, we have Alice in Wonderland and Anne of Green Gables, and those are 2 of my favorite children's classics of all time. So I really want to read this series. And in this one it seems like we're going to meet Jack and the Beanstalk and Little Red Riding Hood, so maybe Goldilocks because there's a lot of bears on the cover. So it's gonna be awesome. And now we have Coraline by Neil Gaiman, and this is illustrated by Chris Riddell, which seems to be the common theme in this haul. This is such a short book. It's not even 200 pages, it's 192, so this would be a really quick read. I don't really know a lot about this book, but I think it's supposed to be a really creepy kind of vibes to it, and just like I think Coraline's parents get like buttons for eyes or something. Like, I don't know what this book is about, but I've heard great things, so I really do want to read it because I've never read a Neil Gaiman book in my life, and I probably should start at some point. And then we have Whispering by Sea by Judith Russell. So this takes place on high on a cliff above the gloomy Victorian town of Wuthering by Sea and the Hotel Majestic. And inside this sort of doll hotel we found this orphan Stella Montgomery, who's 11 years old, and she lives a miserable life with her 3 aunts, and she dreams of adventures on the Amazon River or any place really that's away from her aunts. And then one night Stella actually sees something that she was not supposed to see, and she finds herself on the run from terrifying Professor Stark and his gang of thugs. But how can one young girl outwit a evil stage magician much less rescue his poor mistreated assistant. Perhaps with the help of a mysterious maestro and his musical cats, not to mention a lively girl named Gert. So, sounds really interesting. It's written in blue, which is kind of interesting, and there's also illustrations made in blue, so that's really cool. We have another middle grade book written by Sophie Anderson, but this one is illustrated by Sara Söderlund, and this is the Castle Tangled Magic, which just came out in September, I believe. And in this one we meet 13-year-old Olia, and she steps through a magical doorway and she discovers an entirely new land, and this land is tangled by magic, where hope is lost, and as giving the wizard holds all of the power. And soon Olia learns that she's destined to save this land, but with the time running out and her new friends and family in danger, she must search for the magic within herself to save everything and everyone she loves. So it sounds really great. I've heard great reviews from the ones that have read it so far, and there's beautiful illustrations. So I'm really looking forward to actually pick up a Sophie Anderson book, because now I own them all. And then we have a Taylor Witchcraft by Chris Colfer. This is the second book in a Love Magic series, I think it's called, I'm not sure. But this is, as always, beautiful, like all of Chris Colfer's books. And underneath the dust jacket as well, so beautiful. This book takes place in the same world as in the Land of Stories series, because it takes place in the Land of Stories, but this is sort of a prequel series to that one. So in this series we meet Bristol, and she lives in Land of Stories, and magic is forbidden, and girls are not allowed to read books and do anything of that sort, and they're just supposed to be like home, clean, cook, take care of your family and stuff like that. But she decides to start reading some books at the library, like while she's supposed to be cleaning it. She ends up reading a lot of books, and she actually finds out that she is a fairy, and then this fairy godmother comes and takes Bristol to this magic school where she's supposed to learn how to harness her powers and everything like that. And they end up in the middle of a war and she and these girls who go to this school actually have to help save everyone. So I really enjoyed the first book, so I'm really looking forward to see where this second book is going to take us. But I do love Chris Colfer's writing and all of his books and stuff like that, so I have really high hopes for this one. Then we have The Tower of Nero by Rick Riordan. This is the fifth and final book in the Trials of Apollo. So far I have only read the first 3 books in the series. I do own the 4th one, but as you can see right here on the middle shelf right here, I have read a lot of his books, because those are only the ones I've read. So I just really need to jump on this train again, because I am a huge Rick Riordan fan. Obviously got a little bit behind, but in the first book we meet Apollo, and he has been cast down to earth by his father Zeus because they had this sort of quarrel, and he has to survive on earth with no magical powers whatsoever. He's this pimply gangly teenager, and monsters and gods are still out after him, and he has no chance to save himself. So he has to team up with this girl named Meg, who also happens to be a demigod and who has really cool powers, if I may say so myself, and they, as always, have to save the world. So this is not my favorite Rick Riordan series by any means, but I really do enjoy it, and I definitely feel like the series is getting stronger the further we read. And I'm so sad it's the last book, because I have no idea what Rick Riordan plans to write later on, but I feel like maybe he's wrapping up this entire universe he's made, and that makes me so sad. Like, I need more. And then we have Winterbourne Home by Alex Carter. This is For Vengeance and Valor, signed by the author. And this one says, April didn't mean to start the fire. She wasn't the one who broke the vase. April didn't ask to go live in a big creepy mansion with a bunch of orphans who just don't understand that April isn't like them. After all, April's mother is coming back for her someday very soon. All April has to do is find the clues her mother left inside the massive mansion. But Winterbourne House is hiding more than one secret, so April and her friends are going to have to work together to unravel the riddle of a missing heir, a creepy legend, and a mysterious key before the only home they've ever known is lost to them forever. So I really like these sort of mysterious middle grade books, I've noticed, so trying to buy more of them. Obviously. Another very short, hopefully quick read, and this is The Haunting of Evelyn Jones by Phil Hicks, and I think it has illustrations as well. Yes, a very beautiful boat. And in this one we meet Evelyn, and she loves to read ghost stories, and she loves nothing more than when she comes across a new spooky old book. But not only are the stories spine-telling, but it belonged to a girl called Primrose, and Penworthy, who was called Primrose Penworthy, who vanished mysteriously, never to be seen again. And Evelyn is very intrigued by this, and she decides to investigate Primrose's disappearance, and with some help from her new friend Harold. Now someone or something is stirring, and it is looking for Evelyn. And I think it's another book in the series, because there's another cover in the back right there. And this is illustrated by Keith Robinson. And then we have Moonchild, Voyage of the Lost and Found by Aisha Bushby, illustrated by Rachel Dean. That looks beautiful. And in this one we meet 12-year-old Amira, and magic has always been a part of her life, even though her world frowns upon it. And then a mysterious storm begins to rage, and Amira's magical cat companion goes missing, and she decides to set sail, and this is an extraordinary adventure awaits. An extraordinary adventure awaits, one that will change Amira's life forever. Sounds really interesting. I'm really looking forward to reading it. There's beautiful illustrations. So we have A Murder Most Unladylike by Robin Stevens, with beautiful blue sprayed edges. And we meet Daisy Wells and Hazel Wong, and they have set up this secret detective agency at the Deep Dean School for Girls, but they are struggling to find any real crimes to investigate, and they don't really count the case of Lavina's missing tie, because that's not really a real case. But then Hazel discovers the body of Miss Bell, and when she and Daisy return 5 minutes later, the body has disappeared. So now not only do they have a murder to solve, they also have to find the they also have to prove that the murder was took place in the first place. So sounds really interesting. This is a really long series. I think there's like 9 books in it or something like that, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. But that is Ghost Catcher and the Haunting of Pelican City. This is the second book, and this is the third book. These are both written by Sophie Green, illustrated by KJ Mountford. I read the first book in the series in September, absolutely flew through it and absolutely loved it. So this is sort of a supernatural sort of mystery middle grade, which I love a lot. And in the first one we meet little Putkins, and she's this sort of investigative reporter, and she wants to, you know, find the big scoop so that she can eventually become a part of this sort of underground newspaper called Klaxon. And she finds out about this missing persons case, and she finds Nedley, and she has to find out who Nedley is, where did he come from, and everything like that. And it's all really dark and mysterious and haunting, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm really looking forward to reading these 2 books, and I'm really sad that it's only a trilogy, because I could have read at least 10 books of this series. So yes, I'm definitely going to read this very, very soon. So we have Agatha Oddly, The Secret Key by Elena Jones. And this is about Agatha, and she has been a detective for as long as she can remember, but she's just waiting for her first big case, and nothing is bigger than saving the city of London from some strange going on. So she has a home in the middle of Hyde Park, a room full of beloved sleuthing novels, and a secret key gives her access to a whole hidden side of London. And Agatha is perfectly poised to solve this mystery, but just who can she trust when no one is quite who they seem? So detective stories I like when it's middle grade. The very last book is The Ghosts of Howlfair by Nick Tomlinson. In this one we meet a young historian called Molly Thompson, and she suspects that the creepy legends of Howlfair are starting to come true, but then her mother bans her from doing any further research, and Molly and her friends become covert monster hunters in order to save their town. And someone is secretly trying to summon Howlfair's mythical monsters, and with the election of a new mayor looming, everything and everyone is becoming increasingly suspicious. But yeah, those were all of the books I'm going to talk about today, so let's count them. So if any of you guys have read any of these books, please let me know down below what you thought about them without spoiling, of course. And if you like this video, please don't forget to give me some thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking the little button down below. And yeah, we'll see each other in the next one. Bye.